Every Ember application has a router. The router can be thought of as a state manager from desktop apps. As the user interacts with your application, they move through different states or routes, which get a representation in the URL. So it mixes the desktop concepts with the web through the URL. When Ember initializes your application, it looks for a route named application route, but if it doesn't find one, it creates one. In the last episode, we let Ember create an application route for us. This time we'll see how defining our own route gives us a place to provide our template with data. If you're familiar with server-side MVC frameworks, the route takes on some of the role of a server-side controller in this case. Previously we kept our data just hanging off this app object. It's not really the right place for it. Routes can have a model method that gets called automatically when a user visits the route. The route then sends the object that you return in that method as the context of your template. Let's see how that looks. So first we have to create our application route. So we extend the ember.route object. And then here is the model method that we just talked about. And we can return an object that will be the context of our template. Now we need to update our template, so we get rid of this app.name and we can just say name. There we have it. This is the right way to provide data to your templates. You shouldn't have things hanging off of your application object like that. All the Ember objects inherit from something called Ember object. Note that we used create up here on our application, on Ember application, and then we used extend here on Ember route. You can think about Ember application and Ember route as classes. And when you call create, you're creating a new instance of that class. And when you call extend, you're creating a new subclass or a child class. In Ember, you do very little creating. Most of the time, you just set up classes and then let Ember do its thing. It's common to want to do something specific when the user enters or exits a route, like, say, committing changes to a model. We could also bring back our seconds on page timer. So let's see how that would work. First, we need to give a spot for our timer to display in the template. And now we come back over here to our JavaScript and actually add the timer to the model that gets sent to our template. And next we add a couple of methods. The first one is called activate. And this gets called when the user enters the route. And then the second is deactivate. And it's the opposite and gets called when the user leaves the route. So we want to store our interval here. I want to bind that because we're going to use this inside and then call that every second. And then when the user leaves, we want to clear the interval. So now it'll go away instead of sit there and counting up forever. So the first thing I want to do in this method is get our timer. So we use that with this .get, and then we say we want the controller and we want its model, and then we want the timer. Now this controller was created for us, just like our application route used to be created for us automatically. Since we didn't define an application controller, Ember will just create one for us. And then this model is this object that we return in our model method. And then we grab the timer out of it. Now we want to increment it, so we do this .set and then the same string. And then do timer +1. Those of you who are OCD, I apologize. I am too. I don't know how that double quote got in there. So there we go. We got our timer back on the page. And when the user leaves, that timer will go away. We could think about something like we could maybe track an event to Google Analytics or something. and send our timer. And then maybe we track forever how long people visit each route, but we don't actually have anything that's going to do that. So that's it. You can do a whole lot more with routes in Ember, but this is a really good start.